Hello guys, do you know that Ukraine has just liberated another settlement in Luhansk region, Nadiia? That is a beautiful and meaningful name which can be translated in English as hope. In Ukraine, we have a lot of hopes and quite realistic expectations that the Ukrainian armed forces will keep liberating our territories and demilitarizing Russia. I cannot understand why the global media is so preoccupied with this circulation of BS between the White House and the Kremlin instead of focusing on truly important events like Ukrainian victories. And there were many during this week. Two of my favorite: the destruction of the military airfield and arsenals in Angels, and another command point was neutralized in Belgorod region of the Russian Federation. I guess the Ukrainian troops are preparing a gray zone, a buffering zone on the Russian side. So let's discuss the most important highlights of this week in our way to implement the only working peace plan, and that is to defeat and demilitarize Russia. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine, and if you want to see Putin in The Hague, subscribe, we will discuss that on the channel sometime soon. And please share these videos on your social media platforms because the world does not know the truth about Russian war in Ukraine. Unfortunately, right now, the White House simply transcribes Russian propaganda into English, but the reality is very different. And if you look at the victories of the Ukrainian army in Ukraine and beautifully in Russia, you see that the attitude should be very different. So let's start with this really good news about the liberation of Nadiia in Luhansk region that was long occupied, but because of the very good efforts of the 3rd Assault Brigade, this territory is under control of Ukraine again. That is always a very great victory because people return back home. That is the most important thing. Those people who live on the temporarily occupied territories suffer greatly. They are severely Russified. Their children can be stolen. They can be tortured. They can be mobilized and sent into these meat assaults. They are totally unprotected. I have come across one news that made my eyes water. These are Ukrainian teenagers having a secret book club to discuss Ukrainian books on the temporarily occupied Russian territory. And guys, this is happening right now. It's not the updates from the 30s. So don't you listen to Trump or Witkov who say that Putin is a good leader. Putin is the greatest war criminal of our time living on this earth. And knowing that more of the Ukrainian territories return is always good. I wonder why not that many news outlets focus on that. Must be something bad. Anyway, we remember that the only regional center that Russians managed to capture after the start of the 22 war was Kherson. It was also liberated, and slowly, settlement by settlement, all of the Ukrainian territories will return back. Or if we fasten the collapse of the Kremlin, it can happen faster. This 3rd Assault Brigade is super popular in Ukraine. You know, here we have a lot of advertisements like video commercials, advertising various units that you can join. Drone forces are very popular among people, and the 3rd Assault Brigade. They are doing amazing things on the front lines. They have really good communication managers, a lot of famous faces, and that's the reality of Ukraine. Yes, we have popular units, and these popular units are doing amazing job. Same as other units that sometimes even remain unnamed, like these people who now most likely control some settlements in Belgorod, and the Ukrainian aviation that destroyed a command point, a very big command point close to the front line, but from the Russian side, thus paralyzing coordination assaults from the Belgorod side. I've heard the rumors that there is a plan to create the buffer zone in the Belgorod region and in the Kursk region to protect Ukrainian Sumy and Kharkiv regions, And I fully support this idea. Like this video if you like the idea, and subscribe to demonstrate your solidarity with Ukraine. We do need that. So these good news were coming from the Belgorod region, and an important reminder, lots of the Russian territories are now a war zone. Luckily for the population, Russian population, we target only legitimate objects like their airfields, military airfields, like their arsenals or oil refineries. Unfortunately, Russians never follow the rules of war, never follow the agreements they sign. So there is no reason to hope for a ceasefire or anything, because Russia will violate that. And during this negotiations process that Donald Trump keeps describing as very successful because he is the greatest deal maker on the planet, we see that Russia attacks Ukraine on a daily basis and does it very violently. I think this is a part of that terror to break Ukrainian spirit, morale. They have attacked Kyiv today with lots of drones, and a 5-year-old child was killed in this attack. How can you explain that? How can you put it in the sentence of Witkov claiming that Putin is a good man? And attacks on Zaporizhia, attacks on Odessa. Those of you who follow the updates from Ukraine, you see the results of this daily, nightly terror that comes from the Russian side. And I think it is the greatest sin to close your eyes and to pretend that the negotiation process goes according to the plan. It's just the contrary. It only brought escalation. I am proud that when we answer to the aggressor, we still choose only legitimate objects. And another of such very bright and very legitimate objects was a Krasnodar oil refinery. And the fire continued very long. Typically, the Russian firefighters do not want to come to that places because it's difficult to control anything. You can imagine like how flammable that liquids are, so they usually wait until the fire destroys everything, and they will claim that someone smoked again. This is a very vivid demonstration to those politicians who still want to make their mind or are still afraid of Russia. Russia cannot control its strategic objects. Trust me, they do want to protect their oil refineries. They do want to protect military airfields like that in Anhels and the arsenals, but they cannot. And many Russians actually discuss that online and even on television. Even Russian propagandists have to touch this subject of this vulnerability and Russia's lack of air defense or negligence or non-professionalism. They even think that some companies should hire private air defense. Can you imagine that, like private air defense? But by the way, the desire to have private air defense is the illustration they don't trust the regular Russian army. And why should they? Ukraine can easily cross the border of Kursk and Belgorod regions. Like? And at the same time, I feel really sorry that not many, for example, Americans who watch Russian propagandists in Russia, they watch Russian propagandists on American TV channels like Tucker Carlson, but they don't watch like real Russian propagandists like Solovyov, where they openly speak how they will trick Trump, how they will keep attacking the world, how they want to destroy NATO, how they want to weaken America and Europe. They say it openly, and somehow American media does not choose these narratives and keep saying about this economic potential of future cooperation. Guys, Russian GDP is pathetic. It's smaller than the one of Texas. Do you really need to make friends with Russia if it is also in the context of their war crimes, when all of your former allies, like your best country friends, cannot understand what's happening? I'm sure lots of American people cannot understand that too. But we keep doing the job, and another victory of this week was the destruction of many radars and air defense systems in the temporarily occupied Crimea. Crimea is Ukraine. Crimea is vital for the defense of Ukraine and the Black Sea. And this escalation management, which is just simple weakness, if not betrayal, that began with the annexation of Crimea, actually gave green light to Putin's imperial projects. That was a huge mistake, and this mistake must be corrected. We have to return Crimea to Ukraine. This will be the legitimate end of this war. And we are working on that. Right now, you see that, I guess, during this year, we have destroyed a lot of Russian air defense in Crimea. They keep bringing new air defense systems from this mainland, and we keep destroying it. It's very comfortable. They bring new air defense and radars, and we destroy them, just as we did with the Russian Black Sea Fleet. That, an important reminder, was successfully destroyed by Ukrainian drones, Ukrainian marine drones, which is a great reminder that it's not just Ukraine who needs NATO, it is also NATO that needs Ukraine. Together we are stronger, especially if Donald Trump, Elon Musk will keep paralyzing the alliance, or they want to get out of NATO. This will be a great mistake. I'm sure that later the United States will return back if it happens, but the very idea is very, very wrong. It's just like a lot of prizes. Unfortunately, Putin, China, Iran receive a lot of very unexpected, very big presents they did not expect. Like since the times of the Cold War, all of their dreams come true. This negative attitudes to Europe and Canada that we see right now from the White House, paralyzing the work of Radio Free Europe, of the Voice of America, and many, many, many other examples. These are dreams of the ugly dictators that come true. You know that right now the negotiations on the potential ceasefire continue. Those of you who know a little bit the history of Russian aggression against many countries clearly understand Russia is not trustworthy, and any agreement with Russia is not worth the paper on which it was signed. We know that, Georgia knows that, Finland knows that, Poland knows that, and literally everyone who knows just a little bit about history, a little bit about politics know that. I think that both Ukraine and Russia understand that we will continue fighting, because for Ukraine to stop fighting means to disappear. For Russia to stop fighting means just to end the war. But Putin needs this war to keep his regime alive. There is no way he can get back. Plus, he really hopes that Donald Trump will save the Russian economy. And what we observe right now is a clear illustration to that. Let me know in the comments below, do you believe that Donald Trump will lift the sanctions from Russia? It's interesting for me to know, is it my Ukrainian anxiety, or it seems like yes. I think actually both. I also want to express support to the people of Canada. Stay strong. You are a beautiful country, independent country, and you are an example of many things, starting from your politeness, finishing with your science, medicine, and nature. I want to express my support to Denmark and Greenland. We respect your borders, your independence, your autonomy, and I don't like it that the White House is trying to shake this world order together with Russia. And that is one of the reasons why I actually do not expect that Trump can help us anyway. Even if he, quarrels with Musk, with Putin, even if he starts despising them, I don't see him making friends with freedom-loving democratic countries, because his favorite leaders are Putin, Kim Jong-un, maybe even Xi. So I think it's time to be very bold, very open, and not to play this like escalation management or politeness, political correctness. When you obviously see that someone is a classical bully, do say, I disrespect bullies just as I do. And I respect our community greatly. If you're new to the channel, remember to subscribe, and please subscribe to my new channel where I share weekly videos about life in times of big war. I don't want any of my tips to be useful for you in the future, but it is always better to be prepared. And there is a video about my bug out bag. These girly videos, what's in my bag. But if you are a girl in Ukraine, unfortunately, you need to have an emergency backpack in my case. Also, follow me on X. I'm fighting there. On Blue Sky, our community is growing quickly. On Instagram, on Threads, and we have an amazing Discord community. Same as we have an amazing merch shop with lots of good t-shirts and sweatshirts and cups and pillowcases and stickers and hoodies that are perfect for spring, but for a meaningful spring, because they work well as reminders and conversation starters about Ukraine, and we desperately need your support right now. I'm always grateful if you join peaceful protests or if you demonstrate your strong support of Ukraine and our fight against the aggressor. This is what some of the politicians need: reminders. Kind but very strong and meaningful. Thank you for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons and sponsors of the channel, but most importantly, thank you for standing with Ukraine. Slava Ukraini!